Welcome, everybody. I am so glad you're here. I am Jennifer Marshall. I'm the co-founder and executive director of This Is My Brave. And I founded this nonprofit organization over 6 years ago so that we could create a platform and a place to celebrate recovery from mental health issues. Every story told on our stages shines a light on mental illness and substance use disorder. Since our start, more than 725 storytellers have shared their personal experiences on stage in 60 live shows in 35 cities in the United States and Australia to more than 14,000 audience members. The drive to create This Is My Brave was born out of my personal experience with mental illness. Nearly 14 years ago, I was diagnosed with type 1 bipolar disorder. During the first 5 years of living with this condition, I was hospitalized 4 times for manic episodes with psychosis. The year I received my diagnosis, 2006, was the longest, darkest year of my life. When I heard the words bipolar disorder and mental illness, I really thought my life was over. I was forced to quit my 6-figure recruiting job to get well. It became nearly impossible to get out of bed every morning, and the thought of just taking a shower was completely overwhelming. Anxiety robbed me of joy that year, and the severity of my depression was convincing me that life was not worth living. The worst part was the isolation caused by the intensity of the shame I felt about what had happened to me. I just wanted to be normal. I didn't want to be labeled mentally ill, and the shame made me feel broken, like I wasn't good enough, which caused me to withdraw from my friends. My journey with mental illness is not unlike the way most of us deal with it. I hid my pain and feared that I would never get better. Thankfully, that horrible chapter of my life didn't last forever. Through the support of a loving family and good doctors, we were able to find the right medicine. And I was able to find, someone's trying to call me, solid recovery in 2010. When I began on that recovery path, I was desperate to find stories from people who had made it through a similar struggle and that were living a successful life. But no one in my circle of friends or family was talking about it. So I did what most of us do when we're looking for something. I turned to the internet, and I found bloggers who were writing about their stories so courageously that they inspired me. I began blogging anonymously in 2011 under a blog that I titled Bipolar Mom Life. I finally decided to go public. I was anonymous a year and a half when an editor from the parenting book, What to Expect When You're Expecting, if you're a woman who's had a baby, you might recognize that book. That editor contacted me and said, I love what you're writing about. Will you write for us and I'll pay you? And I said yes. And it was that moment of being recognized for writing about something that was difficult to talk about it that made me decide that I was done hiding. I was done being silent about it. And the first story that they published about me, that I wrote about my story, was taken to the homepage of AOL. And a ton of people saw it. My blog had, a little bit of followers, but nothing compared to the eyes that were on that AOL homepage. And so many people called and wrote to me and thanked me for sharing my story. And in the same breath, they would turn around and tell me their story of living with mental illness or someone that they loved living with it. They could see themselves, their neighbors, their parents, or spouses in my story. We all know someone who's living with mental illness, whether we realize it or not. Stories are what connect us. Sharing my story publicly was one of the best decisions of my life. Several months later, I had the idea to launch a new project. When I met Anne-Marie, my late co-founder, at a party, she recognized me immediately from my blog and screamed, "You're bipolar mom!" And I laughed and just said, yeah, but most people call me Jen. Anne-Marie shared my passion for changing the conversation about mental illness. We wanted to give others that same opportunity I had, a platform on which to share their stories. It was the year 2013, and the song Brave by Sara Bareilles was super popular. It had just hit the radio. And one particular verse in the lyrics hit me really hard. Your history of silence won't do you any good. Did you think it would? Let your words be anything but empty. Why don't you tell them the truth? And that song moved us so much that we acquire the license from songwriters Sara Bareilles and Jack Antonoff every year so we can play that song. It's kind of become our unofficial theme song. About 46 million Americans live with mental illness, so my story is far from unique. What makes this organization extraordinary are the courageous people who have come forward to tell their inspiring stories. And also the folks who work tirelessly behind the scenes, like our program manager, Katie Grana, who's here today. Katie, give a wave. And Aaron Gallagher back home in Virginia. And our local producers, folks like Lauren and Amber and Jason, who have made tonight possible. Our brave Northwest Arkansas cast is joining our ever-growing community of storytellers who decided to be brave and put their stories out there. Heartbreaking, yet inspiring stories of resilience. Tonight, you're going to get to hear some of them. And it's our 61st show tonight. This is My Brave wouldn't be where it is today if these folks wouldn't have believed in our mission. So it's a privilege to sit in the audience and take in these powerful stories. Some of our storytellers are experienced storytellers who have been on stages before, and some are telling their story for the very first time, sharing aspects of their lives previously kept secret. You may feel a piece of yourself reflected on the stories you're going to hear tonight. We've had audience members tell us after a show that they never realized that they were dealing with depression and anxiety until they heard these stories, and that's the first step towards getting help. So following the show, you can visit our website. There's a link in your program, and you could take a free and confidential screening through our partnership with Mental Health America, and you get a read on your mental health. You can take it to a provider. It's a good place to start. We will continue to share these powerful stories, bringing mental illness and addiction into the spotlight through our community shows like this tonight. We have a new college program that's launching next week in Boston, and our high school pilot launching in November. We're also shooting a feature-length documentary film that will be out in a couple years. So, we're all coming together to join this movement. And being here tonight is a part of that, so thank you. Our vision is to get to a place where we're in a world that we don't have to call it brave for talking openly about mental illness, that we'll just call it talking. So please help me welcome our brave singer tonight to the stage, Stephanie Walker, who's going to kick us off with our theme song.
Allergies. Thank you. You could be amazing, you could turn a phrase into a weapon or a drug. You could be the outcast or be the backlash of somebody's lack of love. Or you can start speaking up. Nothing's gonna hurt you the way the words do when they settle neath your skin. Trapped on the inside with no sunlight, sometimes a shadow wins. But I wonder what would happen if you say what you wanna say and let the words fall out. Honestly, I wanna see you be brave with what you wanna say and let the words fall out. Honestly, I wanna see you be brave. I just wanna see you, just wanna see you. I wanna see you be brave. I just wanna see you, just wanna see you. I wanna see you be brave. Everybody's been there, everybody's been stared down by the enemy. Fallen for the fear and done some disappearing. Bow down to the mighty. Don't run. Stop holding your tongue. Maybe there's a way out of the cage where you live. Maybe one of these days you can let the light in and show me how big your brave is. Say what you wanna say and let the words fall out. 'Cause honestly, I wanna see you be brave with what you wanna say and let the words fall out. Honestly, I wanna see you be brave. Innocence, your history of silence won't do you any good. Did you think it would? Let your words be anything but empty. Why don't you tell them the truth and say what you wanna say and let the words fall out? Honestly, I wanna see you be brave with what you wanna say and let the words fall out. Honestly, I wanna see you be brave. I wanna see you be brave. I just wanna see you. I just wanna see you. Just wanna see you. I just wanna see you. I just wanna see you. Just wanna see you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm so excited that this is actually happening. Months of love put into this. So first of all, we want to thank you so much to Stephanie. Where are you, Stephanie? Where'd you go? Hi. Thank you so much. That was so beautiful. You are brave and beautiful. Thank you. Give Stephanie another round of applause. And thank you all for being here tonight to support our amazing cast. We appreciate every one of them and every one of you for giving us your time and attention tonight. And all of you.
We'd also like to say a quick thank you to the people who helped bring it all together this year. Thank you to Peggy and Waterway for donating this amazing space to us again this year. Thank you. Thank you to Logan, the amazing tech guy who is giving us his time and expertise. Thank you to Jennifer Marshall, and This Is My Brave, for trusting us with this experience again this year. And a big thank you to Blake Street for supporting us, this deserving cause. And thank you so much to this brave cast of fighters. Y'all are absolutely amazing, each and every one of you.
So we'd like to preface the show by letting you know that some parts of the show are a little hard to hear. So please take care of yourselves tonight. If you feel the need to get up and walk out, to get some air, or to call a loved one, please feel free to do so. And also know that each and every one of these brave people you see here on stage tonight, they made it through the events they're describing, and they're here tonight to share their stories. And now, we'll let the show speak for itself.
Hello, everyone. This is my service dog, Molly. She is an Alaskan Malamute, not a Husky. If you guys call her Husky, you will offend her, so do not call her a Husky. Thank you. It's 1986, and I'm not even a year old. My brother is 4, and it's January in Montana, and we're all alone outside, when the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office finds us. My brother is wearing a cotton trousers and a polo shirt, but no underwear, no socks, or no jacket. I'm in a nightgown and a wet, dirty diaper. Nothing else. My hands and feet are purple because we've been outside a long, long time. It's mild winter day for Montana, only 35 degrees instead of the below zero. So we're actually kind of lucky. I think I'm 5 or 6 now. So that means my brother is 8 or 9. There used to be 5 of us. I was right in the middle, but now my baby sister isn't here anymore. She wasn't even 2 when she died. She used to cry and cry, but now she's gone. She doesn't have to cry anymore, I guess. I bet she was hungry too. I'm so hungry. We're always hungry, and it's summer, so we go into town and play in the Berkeley pit and abandoned buildings and old mines. We knock on neighbors' doors and ask for food. Sometimes they can give us some, but sometimes they have to say no. We're all poor around here. We find a bar that gives us a donut and a Coke. That's our favorite. But when Mommy finds out, she makes us give her the food. Summer is the best because there's always lots of grasshoppers. They don't taste good, but sometimes they are enough that I'm not so hungry. And once you get used to it, it's not so bad. You can get used to lots of things. It's winter again. There are locks on all the cabinets and on the refrigerator too. Mommy and Dad are gone. Well, Paul isn't really my dad. My real dad left when I was just a baby. But Mommy says I have to call him Dad. Anyways, they're not home. So my brother and I bend open the bottom of the fridge so my brother can reach a box of donuts. And we eat the whole thing before they get back. Mommy and Daddy find out, and we get the belt again. Always leather and wet this time, but at least I'm not hungry today. The people are here again, the people who ask all the questions. It's nice to have some visitors, and Mommy is always nice to us when people come to visit. They want to know why my brother is in a cage. Mommy says he's happy in there, but they make her take him out. They ask what we're gonna have for dinner, and Mommy says we're gonna have steak and potatoes. I'm excited because when she feeds us, it's always just peanut butter, sandwiches. I can't wait to see what steak and potatoes will be like. Mommy is tired of the people coming to interfere in our lives, in our private lives. And so we can't go outside anymore. Dad tucks us into the blanket so tight I can't move. And they put a board on the window so it's just dark all the time. We never get to leave the room now. It's always dark and cold and I'm always hungry. I'm in 3rd grade and my teacher wants to know why I haven't been in school lately. I told her that Dad kept me home so we could read The Lion King. I sing The Circle of Life for her, and I tell her how Dad said he would read it to me because it's my favorite, and he can teach me about School of Life tips and private parts. She asked me what kind of School of Life tips, and I told her I have the right to see my family's private parts. And I told her, people, please don't take me away from my family. They give me things now. I told her how Dad took me to town and brought me a hula hoop, the Lion King book, and some Taco Bell, just me and him. She asked if it was scary for me, and I told her the truth. It's scary, but I have to get used to it now. So now I am used to it. Plus I got a big candy bar. They never got me anything. And now I got a hula hoop, the Lion King, a Taco Bell, and a candy bar. I don't get to go home after that. In my 10 long years of being alive, there have been over 20 reports filed with Child Protective Services. I have to talk to these people about all kinds of things, all the scary things, all the secret things. They ask some questions over and over again, and I'm scared. But the nice lady says over and over that everything will be better now, and that I don't have to be hungry anymore. Life was supposed to get better after that. That's what the social worker said, and for a while it was. My first foster family helped me see I wasn't just a feral child, not just the retard everyone thought I was, but a person that was gonna become something one day. They helped me see the world as it could be. I'm grateful for them because after that, all the foster homes were just dark places filled with more abuse. I was just a paycheck to them. Mom gave up her parental rights, but crossed out all the parts of the paperwork saying I could be adopted. She said I was damaged, and she didn't want me back, but she didn't want anyone else to have me either. I'm 13 and I have a choice. I can live with my birth father or get adopted. All I want is for someone to love me, and my father is supposed to love me, so I jump at the chance to be with him. When we're with the caseworkers, he's loving and caring, and he can't wait to have me. But then he gets me home. He tells me I'm not even his kid. I meet his wife, and she says I can't be his because he never told her about me. She knew about my older brother and sister, but not me. My big brother treats me like a slave. He beats the shit out of me if I don't do everything he wants. Then my older sister moves in with her 4-year-old daughter. I don't know her, but it doesn't take me long to figure out that she's as horrible as my dad. They spent all day getting drunk and ordering me around. I clean house, cook, and keep my sister's daughter safe. They tell me it could always get worse. They're only taking it easy on me because they love me. She takes away the beautiful new winter jacket the neighbors got me when they found me running barefoot through a Montana blizzard to get away from them. She throws away my beautiful coat because she says we don't take hand-me-downs. She tortures and kills the pets in front of me to show me how much worse it could get if I don't do everything they demand. I'm thankful for the neighbors who became my refuge when I'm scared for my life. Sometimes I don't know how I survived. I still have nightmares, but today, I'm 34 years old. I've learned that family doesn't have to mean related by blood. You can't choose that family, and they don't have to love you. Today, I know that family is the people who stood by me and showed me what it was like to be wanted and loved. Family is the people who took the time that my parents wouldn't and helped me build the strength to move forward. They taught me how to light that spark that was inside me all along. Sometimes all an abused child needs is that one person who believes in them. I'm thankful that I had my neighbor, stepmother, teachers that helped me to escape, learning to embrace the feral child instead of being ashamed of her. There have been times that I have felt like giving up. Most of the people around me didn't think I would ever become a functioning member of society. I was too damaged, so why waste their time trying to help me? In school, I was placed into special education after getting the diagnosis of PTSD, reactive attachment disorder, depressive disorder, ADHD, ODD, and an analytical disability. As a child, I was ashamed of these mental diagnoses because I didn't understand that it was only a glimpse of how I was at that moment. Once the danger went away, so did a lot of these diagnoses. As an adult, I have a diagnosis of PTSD, disorganized attachment disorder. Today, I'm 34 years old. I have flashbacks, nightmares, dissociative episodes, severe anxiety, as well as uncontrollable thoughts about my past. But I have learned that it's okay to have a mental illness. It can become your superpower. With the help of my service dog, Molly, and therapies like EMDR, DBT, biofeedback, and my therapist, I have overcome a fractured childhood and a broken family to do the impossible and to become who I was truly meant to become. I might have been feral as a child, but today I am a wife, a mother, an Iraqi war veteran of the 101st Airborne Division, and a screenwriter with a story to tell. After piecing my life together, I have found belonging with my family and husband of 12 years. I have discovered the love a child should have and that a mother can experience in my 2 children. I am proof that it doesn't matter how bad your life is, you can learn to overcome it.
That's a hero. Whoa. I'm not brave. I've survived, running away, running towards, seeking, pushing, leading, manipulating, motivating. Go into the storm, you'll get out faster. Existing is exhausting. Living is painful. There is still beauty, broken but good. Please hold me like a child. I am so much more than my meat suit.
Guess it's my turn. Just gonna say trigger warning, okay? Hello, my name is Tara. Hello, can you hear me? Can you see me? Well, since I was 6 years old, this is how I felt because my older half-brother was 7 years older than me and wanted nothing to do with me, and my little brother was 2 years younger than me, and I called him the golden child. I had to share a room with him. He was more important than I was. As I grew up, I was known as my dad's daughter, my oldest brother's sister, my little brother's sister, or that thing that was my little brother's sister. I was invisible, and since I did not like sports and like fine arts, it was even harder. I was forced to play tennis and golf and no art stuff. If I made something, my mom would say, "That's nice," and then she'd wad it up and throw it in the garbage. Or she would throw it in a closet and broke it. Since I was not good as my little brother, my parents barely played tennis with me. I was a nobody because my brother was in the news for almost every sport. The only time people noticed me is when they wanted to molest me. Then I was a somebody. My parents would take us over to our family friend's house, and my brother and his friends would hold my arms so that the 2 older boys would touch me. I would scream, but nobody heard them. Nobody came to save me. I was forced to touch their private parts. I would just cry. At school, it was not any better. I got carrots thrown at me at lunchtime, and they would yell, "What's up, Doc?" or call me Bugs Bunny because I had 2 huge, big front teeth. I still do, yeah. Also, school is when I first started developing anxiety. I was slower than the other kids and could not finish my in-class assignments and ended up asked to go into the hallway where our vice principal paddled me. I hated school so much, and I would rush home after the bus dropped me off to go cry in my room and pray, "Dear God, please kill me. Nobody wants me around, and I need to die." Yes, this started at 6 years old, and it did not stop until I graduated college. High school was even worse for being made fun of. The popular kids would throw pickle chips at me and laugh. I did not know what the pickles meant, but later found out it meant they couldn't tell if I was a boy or a girl. My mom didn't make it any better because she was embarrassed of me and would say things like, "Suck in your gut. If you just put on a little makeup, you would be so pretty. And I'm not going into the mall with you looking like that so you can walk way behind me." God never answered my prayers, and I am glad he didn't, because online I met a wonderful man who became my friend, my boyfriend, and my husband. Thanks to his mother and his loving support, they helped me get the help I needed when I left Arkansas and moved to New Jersey. But it was still a struggle for me. I still got picked on, but this time by coworkers and bosses. My low self-esteem made it so everyone could walk all over me. Once again, I did not want to live and ended up in a hospital, but I made it through, and eventually my husband and I were working on myself together, and we ended up having a beautiful baby boy named Ethan. And when he was 2 months old, we moved back down to Arkansas to be closer to my family since his mother passed away and my dad passed away, leaving my mom home alone. I had to come face to face with my past, and boy, it wasn't long before my old invisible self came back. But thanks to the help of my husband once again, we found the best therapist in the world, and through groups, yoga, individual therapy, and finding out I was allergic to gluten and dairy, and now meat, I am becoming my brave self again. Was it easy? No. I still had to struggle with the fact that my mom blamed me for being molested, and also struggling to keep my job due to adults and my old self creeping back in. But I am keeping on being strong and brave through these struggles, knowing that my husband, my son, and my doctor, and my posse over there are always there for me. I thank you for giving me the chance to share my story and show everyone that I am brave, but it is okay if I slip back from time to time. I am not giving up on myself, even though I have PTSD, severe depression, and anxiety. I love myself, and that is good. Thank you.
Now the night is coming to an end. The sun will rise and we will try again. Stay alive for me. You will die, but now your life is free. Take pride in what is yours to die.
Good evening. What an exciting night. And I'm a former educator, principal, coach, superintendent, and it's pretty natural for me to get up and talk to people. So last night I got in trouble. I went over 7 minutes of my time. So Lauren, was it 12 minutes? So if I go over tonight, Lauren Levine's going to put me in timeout. So I've got to cut this down a little bit. First of all, I want everybody just to stand up, if you would. Just stand up. Everybody just stand up, and we're just going to have to do this. We've got some people from out of state, so not right now, but when I say 1, 2, 3, we're going to say, woo, pig, suey. All right, we got a couple of out-of-staters. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Woo, pig, suey, Razorbacks. All right. Now you can sit down. We got a lot of heavy stuff tonight. There's a lot of heavy stuff going on here. And first of all, I want to tell you that I'm here tonight in front of you because of my God, my Jesus Christ, and my faith. I'm here because of that, one and only. I want to talk to you just a minute about emotional intelligence. I was raised in a family that taught me work and to get up and be happy. You work, you get up and be positive. You go to work, you smile and you be positive. And I didn't know anything about emotional intelligence. I didn't know anything about what anger or sadness or anxiety or depression, or I didn't know anything about that because I was taught to go to work and be positive. That's what we were taught to do, and that's what we did. On July 19th of 2012, and I'm going to read fast, and you're going to have to keep up because there's a story. On July 19th of 2012, I was arrested for aggravated cruelty to a dog. It's a Class D felony. Domestic battery in the 3rd degree, a misdemeanor. Refusal to submit arrests, a misdemeanor. An offense committed in the presence of my 13-year-old daughter, who, God forbid, did not see that. Now I'm going to take you back 7 days. Previous to my arrest, I had not slept for about 5 days. The afternoon of July 17, 2012, I would go into a severe manic episode of an undiagnosed bipolar 1 type 1 disorder. I went to my children's home sometime around 3:30 p.m. As I left their home, and after I drove approximately 3 blocks, I felt like everything was moving at about 1,000 miles per hour. My heart was up, and I thought I was dying. I literally thought I was dying. I pulled into someone's driveway, knocked on the door, entered the home, told the gentleman that I was dying to call 911. I went outside and laid on the concrete. I laid until the ambulance got there. At that time, I was surrounded by my kids, some friends, some coworkers, EMT, lots of people surrounding me. I got into the ambulance. I became aggressive. I became disorderly. They cuffed me and chained me to the bed in the ambulance, and we took off to the hospital. The last thing I remember at that moment is seeing a big American flag at the Fayetteville Auto Park in Fayetteville. And at that point in time, from that point in time until the next morning at about 10 o'clock, I lost memory. I have no memory. I went into a state of psychosis. If you know what psychosis is, it's when your mind separates from reality. When I got to the hospital dosed me with a lot of drugs. On the morning of July 18, 2012, I was discharged by the local hospital. Please make note of that. Against the recommendation of the hospital, my fiance refused for the hospital to admit me to the psychiatric floor of the hospital. Also, the Department of Human Services was ordered to evaluate me before I was discharged. That did not occur. My fiance left the hospital. My fiance and I left the hospital at approximately 6 a.m. The attending emergency room physician, make a note of that, was my doctor. I do not remember the discharge from the hospital. After I was released from the hospital, I spent approximately 4 to 5 hours with my family. I do have a memory of about a 4 to 5 hour period with my family. We went home, we grilled steaks, we spent a little time together, we took some drives. I took my stepfather to University of Arkansas tennis facilities. He's a big tennis fan, and so I remember some of that. But I do remember, and even conversations after this episode, I was still in a manic episode. I told my mom at the time I owned a landscaping business, and I told my mom that I was going to mow all the Walmarts in Mexico. I was going to mow all their yards in Mexico, and she's going, Walmart's in Mexico, and you're going to go mow the yards, and just it was manic. I was not right. I was not thinking correctly. All right, so I was released from the hospital. I spent approximately 4 or 5 hours with my family, in which I have very little memory. The late afternoon, I went to sleep. My next memory was being on the front porch of my home naked, handcuffed, and being escorted to a police car. My memory of that moment was very faint. I do remember asking for a blanket so I could cover my body. As we moved toward the police car, I lost my memory until approximately 5 a.m. on July 19, 2012. I was in a jail uniform, had shackles around my feet and around my arms while I laid in the hospital bed. For approximately 12 hours, again, I was in a state of psychosis. My brain had disconnected from reality. So if we could we go back to that first slide where the media shows that I was naked and there. So the media, as we all know, is very sensational. This was a big headline, even down in Florida where I have family. Naked principal, okay? My wife's in the audience somewhere tonight. I sleep naked. Still tonight, I'm going to go home, and I'm going to sleep naked tonight at home. And for a couple years with my family and I, it was a big joke, you know. I mean, the media got a hold of this, and oh, he was naked, you know. Well, yeah, I was, and I'm still going to be tonight when I go home with my great wife. So I get to get my memory back, and approximately 5 a.m. on July 19, 2012, I was seen again by the same ER doctor that had seen me 12 hours previously. The same emergency room doctor that had seen me the night before. He asked the police officers to take off all the handcuffs, all the shackles off my body. And he dismissed the police officers from my room. From that point on, which should have happened 12 hours ago, I was admitted into a mental hospital for 7 days. I was seen by 2 psychiatrists, and they misdiagnosed me with a traumatic brain injury. I was dismissed. I was left the hospital. I was gone and taken back through the Washington County Sheriff's Department and was taken in, and I went through a long battle. I went through a long battle and a fight, and all charges were dropped in January of 2013. Based on these findings from the state of Arkansas mental hospital, Mr. Webb did have a mental disease. Mr. Webb did not have a mental defect. Mr. Webb lacked the capacity to appreciate the criminality of his conduct. Mr. Webb lacked the capacity to conform his conduct to the requirements of the law. That was a good day for me. I was acquitted, but it wasn't over. It wasn't over. That meant that I didn't have to go to a state penitentiary, which I honestly was not scared of. I was scared for my family. I was scared for my kids. I was scared for my friends that I possibly had the opportunity to go to a state penitentiary. It didn't scare me because I knew that at some point in time, 3, 4, 6 weeks after this event, I knew that I was going to have purpose in my life. And I knew that I was going to be somebody who provided hope to somebody else down the line. After approximately 2 years of very intense therapy, 1 year hard, soul-digging, intense therapy. Second year got better. With a psychologist, I felt like I reached a place of peace and comfort. Although those days I still look back with a bit of sadness, there's a very strong purpose for that crisis. Today I live a very fulfilling life. I want to stop right here. I'm not going to read anymore. I'm a very productive member of society. I've owned a construction business now for 7 years. I can give you 50, 60, 70 names of clients. I can give you names of my friends and family, and they'll tell you about my character. They'll tell you about my character. We have a problem in the United States of America. We have a problem in the room tonight. We have a problem in this world, and it's called a stigma associated with mental health. Everybody in this room, and I know people in here, Larry Hopkins, Charlie Abernathy, Lori Webb, McCarley Perkins. I can name people that you've had heart disease, you've had broken bones, you've had things, and then all these things in our body. What's more important than our mind? What is more important, and I've debated with myself over the last 4 weeks, is that my heart or my mind? Blood's pumping to my mind, but which one's going? Is my mind telling me? Which one is more important? We have got to stop thinking that we cannot talk about our mental health, whether it's positive or negative. Because we layer, you go through life and you have stressors and you have sadness, and then your bills come in, and then you get stressed and anxiety, and then it goes into depression, and you don't know how you feel, and our society tells us that you're not allowed to talk about it. By gosh, you are. And I'm telling you tonight that I went through 2 or 3 years of diarrhea, floating in it. And tonight, I'm married. I'm a family man. I always have been. I'm a great father. And I live with a mental illness. And I'll talk to you about it. You've got a page in there. I have an advertisement with my construction company, and I have an email address and a phone number. And I don't want you to hire me to come and rebuild and remodel your house. If you want to talk, I'll talk to you. I'll talk to you. I'll talk to you. I'm not a doctor. I don't have any degrees except a master's degree in education. I'm a teacher. But I'll talk to you. And let me tell you, you need to leave here with hope tonight. You need to leave here with some faith tonight. If you're struggling with something, if your family member is struggling with something, you leave out that door tonight and you listen to these people over here, and you leave this place with some dadgum hope that tomorrow is going to be better for you.
$17.3 million adults had a major depressive episode last year. 17.3 million. That's the same as every single person who lives in LA and Chicago and Houston, Philadelphia, Phoenix, San Antonio, San Diego, Dallas, San Jose, and Austin combined.
I have to stand over here because the thing's too tall for me. I was 9 years old when I was first told, go kill yourself. Like a punch to the gut, I reeled away as my friends laughed at my show of pain. Like lava under my skin, my anxiety bubbled up, almost making me throw up. It took all of my willpower to stand up and run off, hearing all of my peers laugh and jeer as I cried for the disgrace in a bathroom stall about how right they were all along.
Now I think back on that year, remembering all the hoodies and tears and all the times I dreamed of red spilling down my wrist. I think about all the times I blamed myself just for existing, that my place in the space could be better used by someone who knew how to actually use it. I think about all the times my so-called friends touched and prodded as I was having a panic attack while with teachers watching on in amusement. I think about how I'd wake up in the middle of the night screaming and crying, trying to rip off my skin from the awful nightmares that plagued this awful sack of muscle and flesh. I think of the horrible creature sitting in my grotesque chest that begs to never tell my fears, but to also scream them from the rooftops. To free myself from this painful burden, I think of the sludge that lives in my throat, whispering safety into my ear while also ripping apart my heart. I think of the pain I feel whenever I say I'm fine, because telling lies is easier than asking for help. Before my 13th birthday, I'd sat back in class and wondered how many bottles it would take of medications my parents kept in the bathroom cabinet to kill me. When I remembered the person they would put under my grave, I stopped and walked away. I remember the time where I couldn't walk away, and I'd reached in and grabbed a full bottle of ibuprofen and took a single one, hoping the screaming in my head could be sated by a single pill crawling down my throat. I had a dream last night about someone under the starry moonlight, about a blizzard. The harsh winter winds almost blowing me off my feet, and through the snow and ice, I saw a figure in front of me. They looked me in the eyes, and before I even knew what they looked like, their form flickered and shuddered until they were a bright, shining star in a vaguely human form. The ground melted around them as the world seemed to still. They sat next to me in the white picnic blanket void of my mind. They put their arm around my small shoulders, which felt like a hug from someone I used to know but had long forgotten. I stared at their metal glasses that looked so much like mine as they flickered in and out of existence. They told me in a voice that sounded so similar to mine that I was not where I belonged. I never asked them where, but they heard it. As if reading my mind, they answered that they could not tell me, and when I thought why they couldn't tell me, they simply chuckled as they looked over the space we were in and said they didn't want to spoil the fun for us, for the brighter path we were set on. I woke up that morning with a taste of lavender on my tongue and a desire to change my name.
Okay, here goes. My beautiful sister, steadfast and strong, who could have known the pain you've endured, so very alone, treated so wrong? These words were written to me by my beautiful sister, who is in recovery from depression, anxiety, and addiction, has spent too many years living on the streets, in and out of homeless shelters and jails, and repeatedly raped and beaten. I look at the raised scars and white welts punctuating her inner arms. Their source is her secret to keep, leaving me to wonder if I connected the scars and welts, what horrors would be revealed. How is it that this mangled woman can see me so clearly? It's because she and my youngest sister were my only anchor in a tumultuous childhood. My mother was a shapeshifter, alternating between loving, happy mom, depressed, inconsolable woman, and angry, mean-spirited witch. I still have vivid memories of her wailing to God to end her life, or cementing herself to the edge of our couch, crying, chain-smoking, and chasing Valium with gin and tonics. Leave me alone, her mantra. My sisters and I tiptoeing on shards of glass, lest she kill herself or otherwise abandon us. In early childhood, I was painfully shy, had recurring nightmares, whispered, "I'm scared," into unresponsive ears, and sometimes wished I was dead. As I grew older, I naively thought I could parent my sisters and ease my mother's suffering. As a preteen, the mixed feelings I had for my mother, love and hate, respect and fear, compassion and disdain, became confusingly jumbled together like the mismatched pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. And as a teenager, I became filled with rage, no longer willing to shoulder her pain or tolerate her erratic behaviors. Her cruel words and incapacity to care for me in the way that I needed left me feeling like a freak, a weirdo, a sicko, incapable of connecting with others, unlovable and utterly alone in a world I could not fathom. And I, like her, begged God to let me die. After high school, I had no plans of going to college. I was not smart enough. But with encouragement from loving mother, I enrolled in a community college and then transferred to the university. My studies were an oasis from my tormenting thoughts, but I still never slept before an exam, consumed by fear of failure or being discovered as an insane fraud. These thoughts persisted even though I graduated with a 4.0 GPA and went on to complete both a master's degree and a PhD. At age 27, I felt myself becoming my mother. I took long rides in the mountains of northwestern Arizona, toying with the idea of driving my car off a cliff. Intrusive thoughts insisted I bang my head against concrete, the seductive vision of my skull cracking open like a rotten egg, giving me a sick sense of pleasure. I then descended into this deceptive comfort of numbness, my mattress slowly digesting me as I waited for death to finally take me, because surely I was slowly dying. Then, thinking of speeding up the process by killing myself, I heeded the warning of the Southern Baptists I grew up with that suicide is punished by God with an eternity in hell. Finally, I saw a psychiatrist. Before my appointment, I worried that I would either be dismissed or locked away forever. Instead, I was diagnosed with major depression and prescribed an antidepressant and a mood stabilizer. Slowly, I got better and experienced normal for the first time in my life. After a year of taking my medications, I thought I was cured, so I stopped. And so began the 10-year on-again, off-again psychotropic roller coaster ride. Finally, at age 37, on the tenure clock as an assistant professor, I came to the long overdue realization that I had to stay on medications probably for the rest of my life. So I got out of line for the on-again, off-again psychotropic roller coaster ride. For 20 years, I did fairly well, religiously taking my medications and eventually adding to my treatment regimen the support of a beloved therapist. I was also awarded early tenure and promoted to associate and then full professor. Then my anxiety and depression returned with a vengeance. But this time the tricky bastards didn't make their entrance in the form of catastrophic self-loathing thoughts. Instead, they physically assaulted me, turning my heart into a time bomb, causing my limbs and hands to tremble uncontrollably, punching me in the gut with the force of an Avenger superhero, and muddling my brain. Observing my crumpled, trembling body and nonstop sobbing, my therapist and friends got me admitted to a psychiatric facility. 14 months later, I again became severely depressed and anxious. This time I was intent on ending my life. Screw the eternity in hell thing. But through divine intervention, my sister called just in time to disrupt my suicide plan. And again, I was hospitalized. Today, I am well on my way to recovery. I have let go of my rage turned to guilt. I even have moments of gratitude for the many glimpses I have of the loving mother that the heavy cloak of untreated mental illness robbed from me. My emotional pain has morphed into physical pain, and I'm slowly releasing the trauma that has ravaged my body for far too long. Every week, I collapse into the giant sectional sofa with the piles of pillows to embrace, clutch, hide behind, cry into, or turn into fortresses. The sofa, a magic carpet, flying into the storm clouds and transporting me to the places I need to go to reclaim the stolen pieces of myself. My tranquil healer guiding the magic carpet through those terrifying places and safely returning me to the here and now. And tonight I stand before you, not as a talking vessel of psychiatric symptoms, but as a friend, a sister, a stepdaughter, and my stepmother and stepbrother came all the way from Texas to be with me tonight. An aunt, a godmother, a pet lover, a dreamer, a traveler, a state and national parks enthusiast, a hiker, an amateur photographer, a scarf hoarder, a teacher, a learner, an award-winning scholar, and so much more. I have a beautiful, messy home. I do work that captivates me. I have my Minnie, whose smelly dog odor is the scent of unabashed love, and my Kyoko, who snuggles up against me, his purring body soothing my soul. I have my family and friends, and the support, of my mental health team and others who are also in recovery. I am beginning to feel safe in the world, and now I have moments of clarity, hope, contentment, openness with the universe, serenity, and joy. And at some point, my depression, anxiety, and past traumas will likely resurface. But I, the phoenix, will rise again, as I have so many times before, from the ashes and embers of mental illness.
Would you guys just take like a big, slow, deep breath with me? I kind of hate talking in front of people, so this is how I'm going to tell my story. But a few years ago, I wrote this song when I was in the worst depression of my life so far at the time. I remember the night that I wrote it, I went on this walk around my apartment complex, and I was just so out of it. And I ran into my acting teacher who lived in the same apartment complex as me and my classmates. She saw how dissociated I was and invited me in, and we ended up talking, and I told her about how I hadn't written anything in so long, and she said, "Why don't you write a song about what you want future Olivia to look like and like the qualities you want her to have and things like that?" So I went home, and right before I sat down to write this song on my bed, I pulled out this little jar that my best friend sent me off to college with. And it said, the little slips always were such crazy synchronicities of what I was going through at the time. And as I was about to write a song about future Olivia, the little slip said, "Do you believe in time travel?" And I sang this song a few years ago at This Is My Brave, and I didn't know it at the time when I wrote this song. It was so weird how it flowed out of me in just one stream, which never happens. But I wrote it for us, and I wrote it for this. So this is Do You Believe in Time Travel? I saw myself at a coffee house today. I was wearing the same glasses and the necklace with the coordinates of my hometown. And I never stuttered when I spoke. I was writing on a napkin, and this is what I wrote. Please be patient, take your time. When people let you down, don't change your mind. You know what's true and you know what's right. Everybody needs a good cry sometimes. Sometimes you're stuck and you don't know why. But there is not a mountain that you can't climb. It's because you're a fighter and a fighter fights. I wasn't worried about being on time, and I wasn't faking smiles or forcing a laugh, 'cause I was living for my future and not living for my past. I had time in my eyes and wisdom in my smile. I stopped living my life like it was over, and I lived every day starting over, saying, please be patient, take your time. When people let you down, don't change your mind. You know what's true and you know what's right. Everybody needs a good cry sometimes. Sometimes you're stuck and you don't know why. But there is not a mountain that you can't climb. It's because you're a fighter and a fighter fights. It's because you're a fighter and a fighter fights. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I gotta put these on so I don't see you guys. Before my diagnosis 2 years ago, I thought I was a man with a brain that just didn't work like everyone else, who dealt with my mental health challenges with no understanding of my condition, no guidance, no path. Apparently, I was on the neurodiversity spectrum long before neurodiversity was a legitimate diagnosis. In 2016, I was referred to a therapist after being hospitalized for suicide thoughts. After a few sessions and an online test, it was suggested that I had neurodiverse tendencies, at least slightly. A need for structure, easily agitated when rules and procedures weren't followed, socially awkward in large groups, and easily bored. But early on, I discovered that self-expression would help me cope with my mental challenges that I would face during my life. For as long as I could remember, I needed to create. As a child, I drew incessantly, and as I grew older, I played a variety of instruments, never getting good enough to master, but able to grasp each instrument's fundamentals and functionally play them. My true passion was realized in college. When I wasn't in yearbook lab cranking out copy for impending deadlines, I would roam campus taking pictures. This began a lifelong... I didn't understand photographic theory or how to create impactful images, just that I loved taking pictures. This began a lifelong passion, but it wasn't until my 30s that I discovered my need to be in the box. Photography has a dual nature that appeals to my personality. Not only does it qualify as an art form, but it encompasses a technical side that would occupy my brain. A winding path of numbers, settings, and a sophisticated computer-controlled device, reducing its field of view into a two-dimensional image. It's like creating a universe inside the viewer's head. But while I was making an image from the subject at hand, I would also use it to be part of social settings, but keep it at arm's, or in this case, lens's length. A camera in hand can be a great conversation starter. It gets you noticed. I've had complete strangers walk up to me in a club setting and beg me to take their photograph. Photography served as a gateway to several Northwest Arkansas artists, DJs, producers, and promoters. My skills as a photographer allowed me intimate access that I've never before had. It was empowering to people that people wanted me in their events to document and preserve for all the world to see. Conversely, there is a kind of force field around the photographer. Oh, that's easier. At concerts, gatherings, shows on Dixon Street, I successfully navigated the tense situations by retreating into my box, taking pictures of the scene around me. It felt like if I felt anxious or distressed, I could duck out of most situations by getting back on the clock. My face would be pressed up against the viewfinder or window, and my field of vision reduced to a rectangle filled with movement, color, and emotion. Whatever was going on around me didn't matter. Just laser focused on capturing that one scene, a taker and keeper of visions with the freedom to walk unencumbered through even the most tense situations and the biggest crowds. November 17th, 2018, my camera died. My Canon EOS 7D Mark I camera lasted about 8 years. What some people considered a poor design flaw was the Achilles heel when it came to this particular model. If a tiny 2 to 3 millimeter screw holding an electrical board wasn't properly tightened, with each sudden jarring motion of the camera, it had the potential of working itself loose. Once free, depending on where it would get stuck inside the camera, it could be a quick fix, or in my case, death. This is the last picture my camera ever took. It ironically died at Thorn Crown Chapel, a place that I've always wanted to photograph but never had the time. No services were had, no hymns sung. I didn't even realize that it had died until weeks after, when I was preparing to go out on a photo shoot, going through the mental checklist most photographers do with their gear. All my batteries were charged, yet when I would put one in, the check battery symbol would pop up. After multiple chargings, I took to the internet to find that a power board in the top of the camera had been probably where that Rhodes screw had landed. Easily a $600 repair bill. Calamity. Without my box, how would I create? Several months before my camera's demise, I had attended one of those drink, wine, and paint parties with my sister, niece, and my mother. While everyone followed instructions, I chose to do things my way. When it came time to view everyone's quaint winter aspen scene, my forest of blue fireballs kind of stood out. In fact, the only other painter who did anything different was, of course, my mother. When I was mourning my camera, the desire to paint really began to take hold. Between Pinterest and YouTube, I found inspiration in something unusual: explosives. A particular YouTube artist used firecrackers to aid in his work, so I assumed I could do likewise. So with a trip to Hobby Lobby for supplies and some leftover firecrackers, I was off to create. It wasn't very long before my endeavors were cut short by an irate neighbor and an encounter with the cops. However, what little I created was enough to inspire me further. It wasn't until a year into therapy that I realized that I was going to an art therapist. After I discussed my painting process, she suggested that I try something that wouldn't involve annoying neighbors and the police. Acrylic pouring. Calm, soothing, and easy, pouring gave me that creative spark back. It also gave me something that I didn't expect: artistic legitimacy. I had made more money selling my artwork in the past year than the 8 years I was an active photographer. It's humbling and uplifting when someone appreciates that piece of you enough that they want to hang it in their home. Over time, that breathes confidence. With confidence in one aspect of your life, something you can control, something that you're good at, that can carry over into other areas that are lacking. In my case, my self-esteem. It's become easier for me to get out of my box and become part of the scene, to be the image instead of capturing it. It doesn't surprise me when artists gravitate to painting as either a primary or alternative art form, to a form of creative self-expression. I happened upon it almost by accident with the help of a 2mm screw and an art therapist. At first, the loss of my box was disheartening. All that time learning new techniques and capturing that perfect moment in time now has to somehow be reworked into something different. Delving into acrylic pouring with the same intensity as photography, I watched everything I could about pouring, recipes, and examples of work. After a few months of trial and error, my pours began to excite me. Since changing my creative mindset, I've sold more than a dozen works in 5 states and have 2 exciting commissions coming up in a couple of months. In all my years of creativity, I feel that I am now a legitimate artist, and the joy I get from my work is incredible. It is a more intimate, more personal example of who someone is and can be instead of just what they see. With a little help from my art and my therapist, it will continue to help me along on my journey to a healthier mental outlook. Thank you.
This is my truth. This is my brave. And I've worked damn hard to get to this point. Remember to hold space. Remember to sit. Stop trying to run. If this makes you uncomfortable, then good. We need to talk more about the dirty, the ugly, the messy that is being alive and being human. You need to learn how to dance with your demons. I have. And believe you me, I've stepped on a lot of toes. It's not worth doing if I haven't softened the edges. So, I'll give you all this. Trigger warning. I'm not advocating for anyone to partake in the particular activity I'm about to describe. Dear Cutting, thank you. Thank you for being there for me. I remember turning my back on you the first time we were introduced. I kind of just smirked in your general direction as a 15-year-old girl offered up the crafting blades with raised eyebrows. I was shy and didn't know what you had to offer. I remember a time before you were in my life, but I don't remember the first time you kissed my skin, split me open for the world to see, but no one was looking. I went for the wrist after I was held down and raped. I carved broken and horror into my thighs after the second time. I went after my legs when I couldn't run from my mother. I let a lover cut flowers into my shoulder blades as if they were wings, but I couldn't fly. But with you, I could soar. You were the only thing that could set me free for almost 10 years. You allowed me to be in control when everyone else was ripping it all away. You loved me unconditionally. You were always there, tucked in a box among my books, like secrets between the lines, bound by spines. Books more home than the walls surrounding me. Butterfly stitches and neosporin, my cocoon. You put me back together when I was broken into too many pieces to count. I held you like my mother should have held me. She seemed to hate the way I felt in her hands. Once, she became jealous and bled all over my blades. I was more disgusted and annoyed about how it was all contaminated. She looked at me, wide-eyed, expecting more as our roles of daughter and mother switched. It was a constant tornado of power struggle. She just shirking all that she could upon me. I just wanting to be seen more than something to brag about. I ended up burning that blood upon box of blades. I moved on to a silver palm secret that fit just enough control to be mine. Given to me by best friend, blood sister. We haven't spoken in years. I have written love poems about you. I can't hide what you've done to me, leaving your mark for all to see. It shows the world where I've been, even if it's a foreign map and a language they try to learn by eavesdropping. Gaslighting, the only lamp I've been allowed to lead the way. You've made me resilient. Scar tissue is stronger than my mother's words. These lines upon my arms are here to be filled with my future. Let me rewrite all of the pain into something beautiful for others to observe. You'd help make me breathtaking. Well, at least texturized, ribbed for your pleasure. It's been over a year since I've turned to you last. After a neighbor screamed in my face, I stood in the bathroom with the shower running. I saw nothing and slashed, blood touching ground too quickly. Someone once asked me if I had an angry dog at home, pointing to the scars peeking out from my shorts. I told them that the angry dog was within. But with the help of a trainer and the true form of a therapist, I've gotten that angry dog to wear a collar. With the help of my support group, I've gotten that angry dog to stop pulling so hard. I take it out on walks, let it run in fields without the judgmental eyes of those who claim to love it, but have beaten her just for existing. That angry dog even comes back when called, knowing that she'll run again. That angry dog within gets fed a healthy, balanced diet of. Please, don't stop being you, because you are so damn beautiful when you stop looking over your shoulder. So, Cutting, thank you for keeping me alive. You've made me bold. You've healed me beyond the others who've held me. You made me recognize the boundaries of my own skin, forced me to connect and take care of myself as I'd watch hands I didn't recognize as my own press gods into dark corners to stop the blending of realities. Blood pooling into the form of scrying mirrors. I had to look. I was overwhelmed, faced with too much I couldn't see. But with each scar healing, I refabricated what was needed, just enough to keep me breathing. Thank you for being there when no one else was. I love you, and I will always cherish our time together. But I believe we must part ways. I'm sad to say goodbye. I still reach out to you when it's dark, like a child reaching for their stuffed animal after a nightmare, or hitting redial on a number long deleted. I'll always remember you. I bought a promise ring for us on the 1-year anniversary of being clean of you. I wear it on a chain around my neck, a door between the battles I've lost, but the war I'm winning.
I'm really scared. That's why they call it brave, right? You're scared and you do it anyway. Some of you may remember my story from a couple of years ago. My mom was bipolar. My mother was completely unable to hold a job or even care for herself for most of her life, let alone care for her children. After 8 years of fighting the system with help from her mother and her brothers and sisters, she was finally able to get on disability. My daughter was diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder when she was only 13. And not long after I did Brave 2 years ago, my son had his first psychotic break just before Christmas. That was almost 2 years ago. My mom had 3 brothers and 2 sisters. I have cousins and second cousins out the wazoo. Nearly every single one of us on the Key side of the family, my mother's side, lives with some diagnosed or diagnosable form of mental illness. My mom's was almost certainly the most severe, but all of us struggle to some degree to function in daily life. My mom left when I was barely 5, and my brother was only 10 months old. My dad raised us alone. He raised us to be kind and compassionate, and neat and orderly. We made our beds every morning before we left for school. My brother and I had to have the dishes washed every day before Dad got home from work. And nearly every Saturday, Dad put on records. Singer-songwriters from the 60s and 70s, Fleetwood Mac, John Denver, Simon and Garfunkel, Pete Seeger, Mama Cass. We'd open the windows, we'd turn the music up loud, and we'd clean house. I'd pull all the knickknacks and doilies off of every surface and dry dust, and then spray pledge and polish all the wood before putting everything back in its place. I'd pull all the silk flowers out of vases and shake the dust off and then rearrange them. We'd move all the furniture and vacuum under everything. It was ritual. After the age of 5, I never lived with my mother. My father raised me to be neat and tidy. But my mother's blood pumps strong through my heart and through my brain. I want to preface showing you this by letting you know that my kids are grown now. My girls each have their own apartment. They've escaped. They're safe. I want to tell you this because I know that they weren't always. They weren't always happy and secure, and they weren't always safe. Because much of the time we lived like this. My friend Lauren has known me for 6 years. She's known my heart. She's known my many financial struggles. She's known when my daughter Bailey and I were going to therapy and Bailey was trying new antipsychotic meds. Lauren knew when I was physically debilitated from severe depression. She knew when I was having trouble in my relationship, and then knew what was in my heart as I was breaking up with my fiance of 5 years. She's been a part of every major decision I've made in 6 years, and probably most of my minor decisions too. But she didn't know this. Lauren knew me inside and out, but she didn't know this. Almost no one knew this dirty secret, and those that I told never could fully understand how bad it really was. How do you say, you know that show Hoarders? Yeah, that could be me. I didn't share this part of my life with Lauren until long after my son moved back in with me. My son who hears other people's thoughts. My son who talks to angels. My son who attempted suicide. My son couldn't stand to be in a small room with a door, so he took over the entire downstairs portion of the house. The entire living area and the kitchen now belong to my son. And for a number of weeks, because I wanted to help people and because I didn't know how to set boundaries, there were 10 people and 13 cats and dogs living in that apartment. This is pet hair and nastiness I scraped off the stairs by hand because the vacuum cleaner broke long ago. By the time I got everyone out, the place was thoroughly thrashed. I'd almost always been able to say enough at some point and make a place livable again. But now I felt completely defeated. My son had his mental break, and I was having an emotional and physical one, and I got to a point where I just couldn't. As I said, everyone was gone now, and even though the 2 extra bedrooms were empty, Gideon couldn't stand the thought of being stuck in a room, so the downstairs belonged entirely to him. And at 22 years old, he poured hot, melted wax down the garbage disposal, not once, but twice. And when your house looks like this, you can't call management to come fix things, so I had no kitchen. I had no way to wash dishes or cook food for more than a year. For longer than a year, I brought home fast food or microwave dinners every single day. For well over a year, I got up at 5 a.m. to go to work, and then I'd stop at Taco Bell or Sonic or Walmart and get us food, and I'd drive home. I'd give Gideon his food, and I'd put on my blinders and trudge upstairs to my room. I'd eat, and then I'd take a shower, and I'd climb into my bed, and I'd stay there until it was time to go to work the next morning. For more than a year, every single thing that went into my room stayed in my room. When you live like this, it's never gone from your mind. Part of you is constantly worrying that management will come into the apartment that day. When you're at work laughing with your coworkers, part of you is always thinking about having to go back into that mess when work is over. When you get the energy to go out with your friends, part of you is still at home wallowing in the piles of dirty laundry. And you feel like everyone knows you practically live in a dumpster. Part of you is feeling constant guilt and shame that you can't get your shit together enough to just throw out the garbage. Part of you is locked inside that room. And when you're home, it's even worse. You're in constant fear of hearing a knock on the door. You didn't invite anyone over. Of course you didn't. So who's at the door? What do they want? What will they see before you can slip through the crack of the door and out onto the front porch? What will they smell? Mentally healthy people don't live like this. All my energy went into getting up and going to work every day, making enough money to pay rent and power and put food in my kids' bellies. There was no energy for anything but the most basic of survival. And the energy it took to keep this part hidden took everything else inside me. The energy it kept to keep a smile on my face. The energy it took to pretend just burned up everything extra I had for years and years. My kids survived. They'll have plenty to tell therapists about. Plenty to make them kind and compassionate and accepting of others' faults. I got them out alive, not unscathed, but alive, anxious but strong. They have tools in their belts to get them through almost anything. They know how to survive, and they know how to do it with a sense of humor, these kids. And I've almost made it out alive. I left all this behind. I pulled out what was salvageable, and I just left the rest because that ship was sinking and it was taking me with it. I'm at a little one-bedroom apartment, almost by myself now. My son is on my couch at the moment. But we'll both have a little independence pretty soon. It's impossible for him to hold a job when the angels are reaching through the veil to send him urgent messages. So I'll still be supporting my son financially while we travel the long and winding road uphill toward disability. It's been 2 long months in my new apartment. It hasn't been easy sharing my little space. Gideon is nocturnal and loud, and nobody ever taught him to do the dishes every day. So it's a struggle. Most days I feel like I'm hanging on by my fingernails, but there is an end in sight, which I didn't always know there would be. Until then, I never have more trash than will fit in a grocery bag before I take it out. I hang up all my clothes, and I make my bed every morning. My heart still pounds when there's a knock on the door, but I'm hoping that feeling will fade with time. Thank you for seeing me.
I'm not sure the timing of this works. If I would focus my energy into propelling myself forward instead of fixing the mess behind me, I could be the first person on Mars, powerful beyond measure, radiant, seen from space. The Hubble telescope would recognize me as a form as unique and magnificent as any cluster of stars. But my energy is underfunded and brittle, and my sudden and powerful jet stream leaves a wreckage in its wake that I choose to repair in order to survive rather than thrive.
Hey, everybody. God. This is great. Bring on the clown at the end. Make everybody laugh. My name is Jocelyn Morelli, and I'm 53 years old. And I've been sober since January 24th, 2003. That's sober of body, not of mind. My daughter, who's sitting here, was born January 24th, 2005. So I will never have a drink again. And the universe has brought me here tonight. And Lauren. Lauren has wanted me to do this for a couple of years, and I was just never in the right frame of mind. And she just happened to get me at the right exact point. I got a Facebook message and said, "Can you do This Is My Brave this year?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, quickly I said it, and she was really surprised at that, I think. Very impressed. But she caught me at a perfect moment. It was the first night that I felt safe in a new house that my boyfriend had bought for me and my daughter. We were out of the filth and the cockroaches and the unsafety that you feel if you have residential insecurity. So I got off and I thought, okay, I've got the perfect thing to talk about. Just so happens, guys, that a year ago tonight, I was checked myself into the nut house. I like to call it the loony bin, the nut house, the crazy, whatever you want to call it, the cuckoo's nest. Best thing I ever did. So I was going to talk about that, and Lauren, my first meeting with her and Amber, she said, now don't talk about drugs, you can't talk about specific drugs, and you can't talk about the ways people kill themselves. And I thought, shit, that's what I was going to talk about. That's my story. Before I say anything else, I just have to tell these guys something. It's not the first time they've heard this from me, but You guys are fucking crazy. And I'm so honored to be one of you and so brave. Jesus, my God, are you fucking serious? I sat over there, I cannot believe I'm the last one. I have no more mascara. My lipstick's gone. But anyway, let's get back to why we're all here. So a year ago tonight, probably about 5 minutes from now, I woke up in a mental institution and I was tripping balls. I looked around and I had what seemed to me Beanie Baby heads all over me. There was pastel LED lights, like these filter. You see it like that Spencer's Gifts place, and I'm like trying to walk out. And I open the door and I say to the little nurses that are sitting in the hallways, "What did you give me? I'm tripping balls. I feel like I'm in college again. I'm nauseous. I'm gonna throw up." And they said, "We gave you this certain drug that a major comedian took and made her racist." And I said, "Cracker wants a cracker. Honky, get me some food. I'm gonna throw up." And this nurse reaches into her pocket and pulls out a Little Debbie snack cake. Just one. It was like manna from heaven. She sat me down in front of Grey's Anatomy, which I'd never seen. They were watching that in the hallway. And when the other anxiety medicine kicked in, I went back to bed. Now, let me tell you why I was there. I had lost my mother, and I went into a depression. Oh, God. It was so scary, you guys. I got addicted to Hallmark Christmas movies and forensic files. And I had held up in this little room, my daughter coming in, making food for me. I was afraid to go out. I was afraid of myself because I could not stop thinking about killing myself. And I would never kill myself. I never would kill myself. My father killed himself, and I was the last call he made. And I would never, ever, ever do that to my daughter. And I wouldn't do it. But yet I could not stop thinking about it. And the only way that I could stop thinking about it was watching these goddamn Hallmark movies. Because I knew it was going to happen. And same with forensic files. They're going to find some DNA. It's going to happen. So I started thinking, you're not going to kill yourself. But if you were going to kill yourself, how would you do it? And I found these life coaches in New York that took their own lives with helium. Let that sink in for a second. Helium, fascinating. Life coaches becoming death coaches with helium. So I Googled helium. People have often said that I sound like I'm on helium already. Maybe that's a sign of depression. If you sound like this, you're like already on helium. You're already trying to kill yourself. You're halfway there. So I Google it, and did you know that there is a worldwide shortage of helium? Well, what do you think that says about society? Then I start thinking, Smurfette. Smurfette. It makes all the sense in the world. She's on helium, and she's blue. Depression right there. Full circle, everybody knows. But I want to tell you one thing. When I got out of the nut house, I said to my daughter, I'm not going to keep this a secret. I'm going to tell people. Are you embarrassed by it? And she said, I'm so proud of you. So in conclusion, tell people how you are. Don't hide it. A lot of people don't ask me how I am anymore because I'll tell them the goddamn truth. Thanks, guys, and thank you so much, you guys. I appreciate it.
Do we know we are loved? That the universe is kind? Sometimes. Through the noise of our thoughts, we hear the universe, yes. But there are times we are sad in this long dream. We create worlds that have no summer, and we shiver under a black sun, and we take our sad creations for reality. But sometimes we believe the universe speaks to us through the light that falls from the crisp night sky of winter, where a fleck of light in the corner of our eye might be a star 1,000,000 times as massive as our sun, boiling its planets to plasma in order to be visible to us, just for a moment. Take a breath now. Take another. Feel the air in your lungs. Let your limbs return. Yes, move your fingers. Have a body again under gravity in the air. Respawn in this long dream. There you are. Your body touching the universe again at every point as though you were separate things, as though we were separate things. And the universe said, I love you. And the universe said, you've played this game well. And the universe said, everything you need is within you. And the universe said, you are stronger than you know. And the universe said, the darkness you fight is within you, and the light you seek is within you. And you are not alone, and you are not separate from every other thing. You are love. Thank you, guys. If you were moved, and I think we were all moved by what happened tonight, and you'd like to make a contribution to This Is My Brave to help continue this vitally important work, there's info in the back of your playbill. You can consider becoming a Brave champion with a recurring monthly donation of just $10 or more, and we would thank you for your support. Our Brave cast was able to shine a light tonight on a topic we don't talk enough about. I'd like to take a moment to ask our audience to be brave with us and to stand yourself. If you yourself have experienced a mental health disorder, or if you love someone who has. Look around you. We are all affected by mental illness, and simply by being here tonight was an incredible start to building upon a movement of people who are willing to be more open and supportive to those struggling. Here's something that we've come to understand after producing 60 and now 61 shows around this country. Storytelling saves lives. So I have a challenge for all of you. You may not have a desire to get up on stage as our storytellers did tonight to share your story, and that's fine. But you can tell your story or share one that you heard today as a way to start the conversation in your circles and to keep it going. This is how we will change society, to become a place where it's not considered brave. It's not considered brave to talk about mental health. It's just talking. So we'd love to meet you in the lobby where we can gather and visit with our storytellers. But first, how about one more round of applause for everyone?